بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم وانصرهم على عدوك وعدوهم اللهم العن الكفار الذين يصدون عن سبيلك ويكذبون رسولك ويقاتلون أوليائك اللهم خالف بين كلمتهم وزلزل أقدامهم وأنزل بهم باسك الذي لا تردوه عن القوم المجرمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Basically the translation of what I just read is, O Allah, forgive us and all believing men and women and all Muslim men and women, and put off action between their hearts and reconcile between them and help them against your enemies and their enemies. O Allah, curse the disbelievers, those who stop from the way and belie your messengers and fight your friends. O Allah, put differences between them and make them falter in their footsteps, and send upon them your punishment, one that would not turn away from transgressing and criminal people. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. As we are gathered here today on October the 20th, on this Jummah, on this blessed day, and we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to be in this place that we have found. The brother Farhan has, may Allah bless him, done a lot of hard work to get this place for us. In any case, as with all Fridays and all Jummahs, we start with remembering, and I remind myself, I remind you of the Taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have to be mindful of the Taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that we may succeed. What is the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a tool to help us keep in check from our forgetfulness or sinning, to control our nafs, or inner self, that is easily tempted and convinced by the worldliness around us and the shaitan, which misleads us. And we must strengthen our taqwa, which acts like a shield, which protects us from all that is forbidden, which we absolutely cannot afford to fail in. As the verse in the Quran is saying that in order to pass the test of life, you must have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to have the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every action that we take, every step that we take, every thought process that we have. We have to always keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in mind. So basically, every decision that we make, we must first filter it through the lens that, is Allah going to be pleased with us or not? Are we doing the right thing or are we doing the wrong thing? And this will help us in our decision making and executing our decisions, what we're going to do. So whenever we have a choice, this or that, we think first Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we make the decision. So this is the more important thing that we remind ourselves in every Jummah khutbah in the beginning, of the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to mention in our talk a little bit more about taqwa, but for now. And of course, the best thing to remind us and increase our taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to remember death. Because death, as we see it, is all around us, and it is chasing after us. And Allah says in the Quran in Surah 50 in verse number 19 that, and the exhaustion of death will come in truth. That is what you are trying to escape. So Allah already is telling us that you're trying to, He knows us better than we know ourselves. He knows that we try to forget about that. We hear death all around us, but we think, no, not for us, not now. We delay this thought. But Allah is telling us that it will come for sure. And that is definitely a reality a truth. No matter how much we ignore it or not, it's all around us. And as we see today, unfortunately, we see what's happening in the news. We see the horrific tragedies, as if death has descended on a whole people, a whole nation. And we'll discuss that a little, highlight that a little further later on. But it is something to remind us, and so we can have more taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we can be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every decision, every thought that we make. You know, no matter what we see around us, or elders, whether it's elderly or whether it's youngster dying, and then we will be soon in that same situation. So we must prepare. The whole idea is to prepare for that moment, prepare for that time, and be ready, so that when it is our time, we have the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our tongues, that we remember our last words. May Allah grant us this blessing, that our last words is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, okay, so anyways, this Friday we're going to be discussing, I'll be discussing the love of the Ahlul Bayt and how to utilize it. I went a couple of weeks back, I went to the program that Masjid Ali was having for Miladun Nabi, the birth of the Prophet. And they had a speaker, a young Maulana, I think from Texas. And he gave this lecture. So what I learned from that lecture, you know, I want to convey to you guys. And this, of course, I'm paraphrasing and summarizing what he said. So, you know, whatever I can impart. But in any case, you can also, I think they're recorded. If you go on Masjid Ali website, you can go to his lecture and see it for yourself. So maybe you'll get more understanding of it. You know, we spend a lot of time discussing the Ahlul Bayt, how they are on the right path, how we, or professing our love for them. And of course, that's right. We have to profess our love for the Ahlul Bayt. It is the right way. It is for certainly Siratul Mustaqim, the path that everyone should take. And we see that you know, unfortunately, a vast majority of Muslims are not on this path, and that saddens us, that they should have been on the path of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, the family of the Prophet, the righteous guides. But unfortunately, history and politics of that time caused a big division that we see today. But in any case, even if we are professing the love of Ahlul Bayt, we must implement in our lives their teachings. How can we, you know, practically follow in their footsteps? And how are we implementing the love of the Ahlul Bayt that they taught us? Is it enough for us to just say that, oh yeah, we love the Ahlul Bayt, we're on the right path? No, this is not just enough. So of course we love the Prophet, we love the Ahlul Bayt, but we cannot just leave it only in the words and not in the action. And we see that we are the victims of this situation here that we have. We are the victims of people that, yeah, they love the Ahlul Bayt, but they didn't realize that something that their father set up, that their, you know, father made the Zainabiyya and set it up, that they should leave it as a legacy for him, as Sadqa Jariyah, and let it continue. But they are the lover of the Ahlul Bayt too. But they abandoned the mission of their father, which Dr. Hatim discussed in last khutbah as well, in his talk. So we have to make sure that we are implementing the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. We are practicing the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt in a practical way. So in any case, there's a hadith that Maulana had mentioned and it's by the Sahabi Abi Sa'id al-Khudri, that he says the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that whoever is given the blessing with the love, or is blessed with the love of the Imams of my Ahlul Bayt, will have khair, which is goodness, in this dunya and the akhirah. So, you know, the Prophet, and of course we have mentioned before too that even the love of the Ahlul Bayt is a big blessing. Not everyone is given this blessing. right? We see that in my own family. I come from a family that unfortunately many members of it is, they're not on the way of the Ahlul Bayt, but they love the Ahlul Bayt. They love if you ask any of our Sunni brothers, for sure they're going to tell you that they love the Ahlul Bayt, they love Imam Ali, they love Imam Hussein, but it does not show in their actions. They don't remember the births of the Imams. They don't commemorate the deaths of the Imams. They don't know. They didn't have this knowledge, or it's deep in their books. It is there, but they didn't touch it. Anyway, so this Sahabi, they asked the Prophet, how will they have the goodness of this dunya and the akhirah? And so the Prophet explains to him that the person, that is the follower of my Ahlul Bayt will have 10 things, 10 attributes, 10 characteristics in this dunya, and he will get 10 rewards in the akhirah. I think I'm only going to have time to discuss the 10 in this dunya. The akhirah, I'm just going to mention what they're about, but just like in summary. So I'm going to talk about the 10 characteristics of a follower of the Ahlul Bayt, of somebody who loves the Ahlul Bayt, loves the Imam, what they should be, what course they should be taking. And this is this is what the Prophet explained in this hadith. So they have these 10 characteristics. The first of this characteristic is to have zuhad, which is the Arabic word, means zahid, right? And I think even in Urdu this word is there, which means simply to be pious. And I'm paraphrasing and from that lecture. Means to be having austerity, having simplicity, or modest, being modest. Not somebody who shows off. Not this was the example of the Prophet and the Imams. They were very simple. There's the simplicity of Imam Ali. We have so many examples of it that when he bought for Eid, there's an example on the day of Eid, he bought two dresses in the market. One very good, one very expensive and very nice. The other one simple. And he had his servant with him. He had his servant with him. He gave his servant the good one, and he kept the simple one. He explained to when his servant asked him, "What? You are the leader. You are the Imam. You take the good dress." He said, "No. You are young. You take the good dress, and I'll take the simple one." So the Imams practice simplicity. They practice modesty. So we have to be on the same course as them. We have to also have that shows that you have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not materialistic. You're not mesmerized by this world and its glitters and its glory and its pomp and whatever. You are simple in nature. You like the simple things in life, and you're a zahid. You have pious person. So this is the first characteristics of someone who loves the Ahlul Bayt. They should have this characteristic. The second one, number 2, is hirsul ala amal. So this means that amal means to work, to do something, to be active in some kind of hard work. Okay, and so this characteristic is somebody who is inclined, who loves to work hard, who loves to be busy, who loves to be productive. They're not lazy. The Imam, the Prophet and the Imam did not like anybody who was lazy. There's a account where the Prophet was walking somewhere and he saw a young boy, and he ignored him at first. But then on the way back, the Prophet attended the boy. So the people asked, what happened? When you were going, you weren't really interested. He said at that time, the boy was not doing anything. He was wasting his time. So the Prophet did not like that. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. No? It's okay. So anyways, and you guys can hear me, right? Everybody can hear me?
Yeah, no problem.
So anyways, so Hirsu al-Amal is the person who is working hard. They're not lazy, they're doing something. So a lover of the Ahlul Bayt should be somebody who is active, who is working hard for his community, for his family, for his household. Somebody, and we have examples among us, we have, mashallah, alhamdulillah, people that have been working hard for this community. Brother Farhan is a good example, Dr. Hatim, Brother Mehdi, working hard. They spend their time and efforts for us so we can gather, so we can remind ourselves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be on the straight path. So this is the second characteristic of somebody who loves the Ahlul Bayt. As we know from Imam Ali as well, that he used to work very hard for the community. He used to work on the farms. He didn't have to, but he did. He worked so hard. And he would give whatever he earned, he would give it to the poor. He would distribute it amongst the poor of his community. To the point that he himself lived a very simple life. He couldn't live a very, but he himself liked to live the simple life and help the community. And we know that already from our learnings of him. How he helped, and all the Imams, how they helped the community, how they sacrificed for the community. So this is another characteristic that we have to learn from them. And the Prophet is
Power on, line in.
The Prophet is telling us that if we are the followers of Ahlul Bayt, then we should have this characteristics of being productive, working hard. Okay, the next one, number 3, is something called al-wara. So what is al-wara? This is the next level after taqwa. As we mentioned in the beginning, that taqwa is something that you have the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you are aware, in every decision that you make, every thought process that you have, you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you are aware and you are conscious and to do the right thing. Al-wara is the next step after that. So the Prophet is saying that the people that love me and my Ahlul Bayt, not only do they have taqwa, they have something more than that. They practice something more. Al-wara, they don't even go near. They take extra caution from staying away from the haram, from staying away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They stay away. They don't even get close. It's just like the example that if you are somewhere, you don't want to be on the edge, right? The Maulana gave this example that in some, you see in some countries, they have the road on the edge of the mountains,
Right.
And of course you're afraid, you don't want to go on the edge because you could fall off, right? Why? Because it's dangerous. So why go near the edge? Stay on the safe zone. And having wara is like that, staying in the safe zone, staying in the safety of under the umbrella of taqwa. So anybody that loves the Ahlul Bayt will have this characteristic as well, that they stay away from the haram, they stay away from the sinning, they stay away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by practicing extra caution, extra not just taqwa but al-wara. So that's number 3. And then we're going to go to number 4, which is something called al-raghbatu fil ibadah. And of course these things, they follow each other, right? Like they're interlinked, kind of. They're connected. These characteristics, they're connected to each other. Al-raghbatu fil ibadah means that they're inclined, they love worshipping. The person who is follower of the Ahlul Bayt, who loves the Ahlul Bayt, loves the Prophet, he's gonna love to worship, love ibadah. He's inclined to do his ibadah, his 5 daily prayers. He loves to read the Quran, or she loves to read the Quran, right? And if we look in the Quran, we also find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said we created mankind for the reason is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isn't it true? So this is one of the characteristics that the Prophet is mentioning that they are inclined, they love to worship the followers of my Ahlul Bayt, because where did they learn this from? They learned it from the Ahlul Bayt. The Ahlul Bayt spend most of their time in ibadah. They spend most of their time worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In sujood, why do we call Imam Sajjad? Because Imam Sajjad spends most of his life in sujood. You know? And his other title, Imam Zainab al-Abidin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You know, he's the peak of ibadat, the peak, the highest level of somebody who did ibadat in his life. And he's our Imam, we learn from him. So for sure, if we love them, we have to follow in their footsteps. We have to also have develop a love for the worshipping, love for the, and it could mean different things, right? It could be you read the Quran, but with the meaning. Read the Quran with meaning. Read with translation, so you understand. Whether you're doing tasbih, whether you're doing zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether you're doing istighfar on Thursday nights, dua kumil, all these include worshipping. So the person who is a true follower of the Ahlul Bayt and loves the Ahlul Bayt is somebody who loves to worship and loves the ibadah. Okay, number 5 is the one saying they practice tawbatu qabl al-maut. So this, again, these kind of are interlinked, because somebody who repents before it's too late, before death, they do tawbah. They're always doing tawbah, because we know for sure that we are sinners. We give in to whether openly or behind closed doors, whatever it is, we are not the perfect, and nobody's perfect. Whether something comes out of your mouth out of anger, or you say something disrespectful to your parents, or you say something disrespectful to your wife, or whatever it is, your children even. Sometimes you get mad. You cannot control your anger. Or road rage, for example. I mean, there's many examples of where we go wrong. But this person who loves the Ahlul Bayt, they are always saying istighfar, right? And the Quran tells us that too, right? That every son of Adam is a sinner. But the best of those are those that repent. They're always repenting. And of course, Fridays are very, as Dr. Hatem has always mentioned, that this time, is the best time to say the istighfar. And of course, we should immediately say istighfar. We have on our shoulders the angels that are writing all our deeds. But we know from tradition and history, or from the learnings, that the angel that's writing our bad deeds, he doesn't write them even right away. This is also a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what the Maulana mentioned in his speech, is that he gives certain time before he writes it down. So when you do something wrong, he waits. He waits until you do istighfar maybe. He gives you a chance. So Allah is so merciful that He gives us a chance. He doesn't even, when you do something good, it's written right away. But when you do something bad, there's a delay. They wait. They say, maybe this guy is gonna do istighfar. Maybe let's give him a chance. He's gonna ask for forgiveness. So Allah is so merciful to us. So we should take advantage of that for sure. And those who love the Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet is saying they are always engaged in istighfar, whether it's, and something Dr. Hatem has mentioned, that saying astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayk should be on our tongues continuously. As we are driving maybe, as we're sitting in traffic, as we're waiting maybe at a doctor's office or waiting for something. Just keep saying istighfar. This will be so beneficial for us. Immense benefits. And of course from Imam Ali that we have learned Dua Kumil on Thursday nights. I wish, inshallah, one day we have a center and we have a place that we can hold Thursday night programs, and we can have Dua Kumil there. So that's number 5, that somebody who's always saying istighfar. The ones who love the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, they have this characteristic. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is Nashatu Qiyamul Layl. So this person who is the lover of the Ahlul Bayt, he loves to pray Qiyamul Layl. He loves to do Salatul Layl. So now before we were saying that they love worship, now the Prophet is singling out a specific act of worship, a very special night prayer, which is Salatul Layl. We know about Salatul Layl, something that maybe half hour before Fajr you can get up, and of course people have a hard time even getting up for Fajr. Even myself included. I'm trying to remind. This is all for me too. First, but Salatul Layl has a lot of benefits, and here the Prophet is definitely singling that out, that those who love the Ahlul Bayt definitely have this inclination, this love to make this salat, this special salat. And we know that all our Imams and the Prophet made this salat, right? So we have to follow in their examples. We know that in Karbala, Imam Hussein on the night of Ashura, what were they doing? They were all worshipping. They were praying. They were doing Salatul Layl. All the companions that were with him, collectively, together. And we do this in Ramadan too, as well, to practice. And what we do in Ramadan should be something that we, train ourselves to do. It's a good starting point. If you have a hard time doing Salatul Layl, Ramadans are a good point to get this practice going. Because anyway, you're waking up for Suhoor or Sahri, and Laylatul Qadr, you're going to do Salatul Layl. So that's a good starting point to catch on to this special prayer that the Prophet is mentioning, that those who love my Ahlul Bayt practice Salatul Layl. This is a very specific thing. Before one point was that they love to worship. Now he's saying that they love to do Salatul Layl. Number 7 is Al-Yasu Mimma Fi Aydin Nas. So this is somebody who has total tawheed and tawakkul, not having any hope in the people, but having all the hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Having all your tawakkul, anything that you need, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You don't think that, even if you're sick and the doctor heals you, you don't say, this doctor healed me. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this doctor to you to heal you, to fix you. But in the end, it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that fixed you. So this is the point. Number 8 is somebody who loves the Ahlul Bayt. They have something, Amrullah wa Nahi. They take care of their wajibat, right? So they're always taking care of what they're supposed to do, what is the obligation. We're talking about 10 points for those that are just coming in. 10 points the Prophet mentioned in the hadith, that those that love the Ahlul Bayt, what characteristics they should have. So we're already on number 8. And this is that person, he or she, is a person that take care of their wajibat, they always, the obligation that they're supposed to do, they make sure they did them, and they stay away from the haram, they stay away from the wrong things. And they're near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have a close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They maintain this work by this relationship through worshipping, through purifying your nafs, purifying your heart, increasing your remembrance of Allah in worshipping, in zikr, in all these things. And like I said before, that these things are kind of like interlinked. Like, one leads to the other. If somebody that loves to worship, then you're gonna have this relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you as Dr. Hasman mentioned, to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, talk to him freely, just like as if you're talking to someone. So you relay your needs, your wants, whatever it is, your problems to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 9 is bughz ad-dunya, something that the Imams, we see that they dislike this dunya. Once you have attained all these 8 things, that you love to worship, you do istighfar, you have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're pious, you're humble, then you're going to have bughz ad-dunya, meaning that you're not going to care for this world, right? There's a saying that, this world is a prison for the moment. Why is this said? This world is a prison for the moment. We see this dunya as, not that we're not going to stay here forever. So this is a temporary place. This is not our place. We're really doing everything we're doing for the akhirah. So this is the point, and all the Imams and the Prophet himself always has said that, that and practiced that in real life, that they didn't think anything worth this dunya. They could have had everything they wanted, but they didn't want it. They left it. Imam Ali had said that this dunya is not even worth the sneeze of a goat. So that's what shows you that he didn't care for this dunya. This, and why? Because this dunya, can cost you your akhirah, right? If you don't do the things you're supposed to do in this time frame that you're given in this dunya, it is very likely a possibility that it will mess up your akhirah. So that's another reason why you have to be cautious of this dunya. That am I doing the right thing, or what should I be doing? So they develop this dislike for this dunya, or not caring for it too much. Anyway, number 10, for those who love the Ahlul Bayt, is something called sakha. They are generous. They are good natured. They spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they spend freely in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it's through sadaqah or zakat or khums. The heaven is for the generous people. I also heard in one lecture of one Maulana, he said the generous is not for the stingy, not for the greedy or the stingy or the bakhil. It's for the generous, the one who gives freely. And we know the Imams and Imam Ali, they all practiced that. They always gave. They never, we have that example when in the Quran it mentions that when they were fasting and 3 people came to the door and they gave even though they were fasting. And Allah put that in the Quran, right? So we have to learn from the example. And these are the 10 things that the Prophet is saying, that those that love my Ahlul Bayt, they practice these 10 things. And of course, if we practice these 10 things and we are the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt, then we will have the barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what we're seeking, that we have the barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Allah blesses us. Then after that or Imam that we're waiting for, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, that he comes and that he leads us, because he's waiting for us. He's waiting for us. We think we're waiting for him, but he's waiting for us to correct ourselves so that we're on the true path. He doesn't want he cannot come and we're in this state where people are closing down the Zainabiyya and this and that. What kind of Muslim we're going to be? What kind of followers of Imam if we can't even get our act together? So what he's going to come and represent us? And no, so we have to purify ourselves from these 10 points that the Prophet mentioned. We have to make ourselves better. We have to rejuvenate our faith, our iman, and purify our hearts, so Allah blesses us with the iman. May Allah allow us to be in the footsteps of the Prophet and the Imams. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we have to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially on Friday when the doors of mercy are wide open. Brothers and sisters, the most truthful book is the book of Allah. The best sunnah and the guide is the sunnah and the guide of the Prophet alayhi salam. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. والسلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا سيدي الشباب أهل الإمام حسن والإمام الحسين. السلام عليك يا أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Alright, so in the second part, basically, I was just gonna. So we mentioned I don't know if the people that came a little bit later, for them, I mentioned the hadith of the Prophet that those who follow and love the Ahlul Bayt, they have 10 characteristics. And I mentioned those 10 points. Of course, we're short of time, so I have to do it quickly. But this lecture is also on the Imam Ali website, on their Eid Miladun Nabi program. They had a young Maulana from Texas. I think Brother Mehdi was there, so he might have heard this already. So, whatever I learned from him, I wanted to convey to you guys so that this helps us. And anyways, in the second part, is just current affairs, what's happening in the world. And as we see the injustice of what's happening to the Palestinian people in Gaza, we have to stand up for the truth. We have to stand up for justice. This is what the Imams have taught us. This is what Imam Hussein has taught us. We cannot stay silent. The only thing we could do is, our part is, whether to contact through your representative, whoever's the governor, or whoever's in the political system, whether you can at least contact them and say, you're not for this, that they should have an immediate ceasefire. It's very tragic. We cannot even see the pictures and the videos that are coming out of that area. It's just a horrific tragedy. There's no justification. The brainwashing that's going on from the corporate media is devastating. It's like, they're basically not even allowing you to say the truth. But people are protesting. People know the truth. There protests all over, and they're not covering the protests appropriately. They're not even, showing it. But even today, there's a protest in Journal Square in Jersey City around 5 o'clock. There's going to be a protest, and I think this weekend there's a bigger protest in Washington D.C. Whatever you can do, you should do. So that in the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that what side you stood on. You stood on the right, you stood on the haqq, you stood on the justice. And this is something we have to teach our kids as well, that we have to teach them how to stay on the right path, to stand up for the justice and haqq, and not not just stay quiet when these things are happening. Because today it's them, tomorrow it could be us. We think we're in safety, or so, everything is okay here, no problem. But we came from those lands. We came from those areas. We were born on those streets too. There's no guarantee that this will not affect us. So we have to, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help those people. And today is of course, the day of Friday. We should definitely do that. So let's raise our hands and make dua for them. Ya Allah, lead us to a true path of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. And may Allah rescue those people in Gaza and help the Palestinian people, and wake up the Muslim Ummah, which is sleeping, our leaders, so that they can intervene and be united to do something and stand up for the oppressed. And may Allah help our children grow up in the right way, so that they follow the path of the Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, and not be misguided. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We should pray so that we don't pass our time. Right?
Sir.